catch up where we talk broadly about financial services and compliance. Today, I'm joined by an industry legend who works for the fabric of a lot of the compliance services market, Elastic. I'm joined by Brandon Mavleos, who's worked a lot in the financial service industry. He'll cover that in just a second. And obviously, looking at us now against that beautiful headshot that we had taken at the beginning, we've aged 15 years since we both provided our photo last week. So, Brandon, welcome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your history, how you've come to be where you are now.
Yeah, thanks, James, and thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for watching. And I've been in the financial services industry for about the last 20 years. I started my career on the sales side, actually as a sales trader for ICAP, working in equity derivatives. Eventually moved into investment management, where I was at Morgan Stanley on liquidity products, and then after a while decided, hey, the thing that fascinates me the most about the financial services industry is really the underlying technology. And as of James, we've discussed, I found that at some point for the past couple decades, technology has shifted from being this back office must-have to really being a way for financial services institutions and companies of all sizes really to differentiate themselves, right? So whether that's having just better underlying technology or more sophisticated technology to service customers, it has completely transformed the way that institutions build a reputation, which I think is very powerful and important. So spent some time at JP Morgan working on their digital products over there, as well as American Express, and worked for a bit in the M&A tech industry too, as part of a company that focused really on the due diligence process and how advisors and those within corporate development do analysis on potential transactions. And most recently, as James alluded to, I've spent the past about 4 years over here at Elastic, really working with all types of customers across different verticals, but absolutely financial services customers. And certainly, as James mentioned, Elastic serves as really that data platform to search, analyze, visualize, generate insights for all different use cases, and compliance and different use cases within financial services are right up there with some of the top ones that we see today. So again, thanks for having me, James, and look forward to an engaging discussion and any questions from those watching.
So for the uninitiated, tell us about Elastic, because it's found at the core, whether people admit it or not, of most of the vendor space in analysis, compliance, even things like Jira and stuff like that. So tell us, Elastic, what is it? How does it work? What's its history? Why has it become so key to so many vendors in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So at its core, Elastic is this data platform, right, that can ingest any type of data at scale, structured data, unstructured data. And over the past decade plus, a lot of developers and those that work on technology within financial services have really come to learn that, really you could pull in, again, all sorts of data, be able to search that data quickly, be able to analyze it, be able to visualize it, and be able to pull it into whatever really use case that you need it for, right? With really that core being the ability to search it at scale very quickly. And so Elastic has built certain capabilities on top of that platform, for example, around artificial intelligence and machine learning. If you go to Elastic's website today, there's a lot more we're doing in the areas of generative AI, and we also have different solutions for specifically observability and security. So enabling those that sit in IT operations or a SOC to be able to again look at that data and be able to search that data, whether it's to resolve an issue or to hunt for a threat. And really, again, it's just that data platform. But again, within financial services, within compliance, within payments, within capital markets, within investment banking, within retail banking. There's all these different use cases where at the core of this data platform is really um, able to store and offer a vehicle to be able to search and provide insights.
And so Elastic as a tech platform used to just be a clever wrapper around an Apache product called Lucene, which was a clever way of doing data storage. But what's fascinated me is the way that Elastic has grown and taken other bits and pieces, Logstash, Kibana, I can't remember the name of the machine learning company, the ops company, and just tied it all together, seems enterprise search with all of the agents, and now the bits and pieces to do with interfacing with Hugging Face and Gen I. Tell us a little bit about the corporate strategy, because it's just worked.
Yeah,
Was that an
absolutely.
accident, or was it deliberate
No,
by
no, no,
design?
no. It makes sense. I think part of our strategy too is to make sure that as developers or those that sit in technology are um, modernizing their stack, we're setting the pace, right? And so we have a broad, as you may have mentioned, a broad variety of those, whether it be Hugging Face or others that sit within what's called our AI ecosystem that we have built out integrations to. We have different flexible deployment models, and so for in financial services, for example, there may be a lot of customers that are still more comfortable with on-prem technology or hybrid cloud technology, right? And so we have been thinking over the past decade plus, how do we evolve with how our core industries are evolving? So as they're incorporating new technology into their ecosystem, as they're thinking about better ways of deploying that technology. For Elastic, it's not about just a black box that we throw at you another solution. It's really a foundation to build off of. And so while that may seem somewhat markety, it is really the truth. It's that we want to make the products that we offer future proof to a degree. And obviously, as new technology comes to the plate, whether it be Gen AI, agentic AI, pick your next kind of thing out there. That's the new hype word for next year or the year after. Hopefully, it's something as part of our strategy that you could build on top of.
And historically, you guys have had a fairly fractious relationship with some of the system vendors that people run platforms on. Never so much with Azure, but certainly with AWS, you guys have had your moments of doubt and pain. How do you differentiate yourself from the forked competitor that AWS run in terms of is OpenSearch or something? That how where's your moat there in terms of financial services?
Yeah. So as mentioned, we have there's certainly a product that AWS offers that in many ways is a competitor to ours, but we do have a great relationship with AWS in general. We are a joint go-to-market partner with them. There's many ways that we are able to just think customer first and think about what is the best product for the customer before we selfishly look to market or sell our own vehicles. But so there's that. But also, of course, when we're thinking about how do we differentiate from OpenSearch or another platform competitor out there. In the end of the day, we're thinking about how we make the product easier to use for our customers. There's been 5+ billion downloads of Elastic and counting. So for sure there's a kind of a sense within the developer community that it is easy to use. We're looking at ways of simplifying deployments. We're giving our customers the ability to kind of search across different clusters. So there's different things that we do that some of our other competitors, whether call it OpenSearch or others, can't do. And we're continuing to build on that, whether it's helping customers save costs or just building faster, more powerful capabilities that ends up saving, for example, developers time. That's really where we differentiate ourselves and where we hang our hat.
And I've noticed that back in the day, Elasticsearch was text, rich text, natural language search. Looking at the evolution, there's a lot more structured data there now. How have you managed to coerce what is essentially a natural language search product into being good at structured data?
Yeah, I think maybe to answer your question, we we have for sure been building our platform under the assumption that whether it be unstructured data, structured data, vectorized data, whatever it may be, we want to kind of going back to my earlier point, be able to give a platform to our customers that can ingest any and all of the above, right? So we know data volumes are growing, unstructured data volumes are growing, structured data volumes are growing. As development teams are looking to take advantage of things like vector search, vectorized data is growing, and so really the core of our platform is to be able to ingest the data, to be able to normalize that data under what we call the elastic common schema, and then be able to analyze it as one, really. So, maybe it's a cliche statement, but data is data, and that's how we think about it, and that's how our teams are building the platform.
So, talk a little bit more about the elastic schema, because that's quite an interesting area of the product that sort of flies under the radar slightly, but it is quite clever in its wow, they've thought that through sort of way. So,
Yeah, for sure.
those that
So
don't.
at its core, it really is a way of consistently structuring data within Elasticsearch. So if you have different types of data that you're looking to bring in, you're able to essentially ingest it, be able to kind of put it into this common schema, being able to then simplify the way you're able to analyze it. And so we have all different types of integrations to be able to get that data in. Of course, we've been looking at better ways of mapping that data, and it's certainly, to your point, it's a core of what we look at in terms of our platform strategies to be able to give developers the option to get all their data in and to normalize it essentially.
And so, specifically in the industry vertical that we find ourselves, the financial markets, is there an effort within the company to model stuff like FPML or fix 4 point whatever, or any of those more financially structured languages that would give us the ability to store, to do full market supervision, to do fraud detection on actual ISDA contracts and that sort of thing? Is there something? Is there work going on in that area?
I wouldn't say specifically within that area, but really the idea for us is to be able to give our customers the ability to build on whatever use case that they want, right? So we don't offer pre-built dashboards for compliance, or we don't offer specific industry specific integrations to maybe some vehicles that will help with that. But really the idea is an open, flexible platform so that no matter what you are building, you can customize it for yourself. And so that's while we might not be focused on some of those specific structures or those specific industry specific normalizations, we're really thinking about giving our customers the ability to do any of it really, and to make it their own.
Yeah, to be clear, you don't need to use the schemas at all. They're just there as if you want it to work through the entire Kibana dashboard with all the add-ons, then Elastic Schemas is a good idea.
Yeah.
So in terms of the heft of the industry verticals that Elastic are working with, who has the biggest say when you all get together in meetings? You got automotive and telecoms and finance, and who's going, my sector needs this? Who typically wins those fights?
Well, we have again, we're a horizontal product, so we have we try not to have a bias against any particular industry, but financial services is definitely one of our biggest and one of our focus areas, and other industries like government and the public sector, which has a lot of similarities when it comes to regulation and compliance, and a need to really think deeply about what they are building and
Mhm.
the security of those sorts of applications and those systems when it comes to very sensitive data, whether it be financial data, whether it be government data, whether it be customer health records, things like that. There is definitely a similarity in those needs across industries, and so one thing we definitely put a lot of weight and consideration into when we develop our products and when we speak to customers about our products is the security of that data, the control to be able to ensure that only the right people are accessing and can search through the things that they are privileged to be able to get information on. And so, we spend a lot of time speaking with customers within those highly regulated industries about things like that, because those are their top concerns. Within financial services, there's no way to really come back from a large breach where customers, privilege account data is lost, right? Within government, obviously, citizen records are critical to keep close to the vest. So a lot of our efforts spent focusing on those areas where we know customers absolutely need to be in control of
Mhm.
what gets seen by whom. So. But yeah, so I think James would love to pick your brain as well. You spend a lot of time chatting with the folks on the call here that are very much close to the compliance industry and everything as it pertains to sorts of vendors they select and the different technology they're choosing to implement. And so I know, obviously Elastic has uh, a strong opinion on artificial intelligence, which I've started to kind of tease out a little bit, and we're looking at what's next. But yeah, would love to hear kind of what you're hearing from maybe it's the folks in the call, or maybe it's other customers you're speaking with in terms of how AI is really uh, impacting compliance and maybe what
Sure.
folks need to be thinking about.
So my opinions on this are many and varied. I'm not looking for funding, so therefore I'm not an AI fan person. However, there are bits of AI that are brilliant, and they're the bits that historically Elasticsearch has had a lot of: machine learning, natural language processing, anomaly detection, translation, transcription, image recognition. Okay, that's not quite elastic, but things like Tika and OCRing and that sort of thing. And they are all what used to be known as artificial intelligence. And I'm bang in favor of all of that because it's just genius, because it's deterministic. You can put data in, same data out. And you know that it's just going to repeatably do that. Anomaly detection, there is a mathematical equation that will tell you whether it's an anomaly or not. When you're getting search results back from Elasticsearch, there is actually maths under the hood that you can follow through to see why you get the score that you get. It's very clever maths, but it's repeatable. And so that sort of AI, love it. Um, Generative AI, not so much. And again, I utterly understand that in a gold rush, you have to sell shovels wherever possible. So I get with the idea that you can plug a model into a platform that deals with data, because your data is in your data lake and you want your Gen AI thing to make up rubbish from the data you've got rather than public data or give everything to Open API. But I have a very strong feeling that given the limitations of generative AI and the fact that hallucinations are baked in, let's call it what it is, errors are baked in, it runs a temperature, a volatility for those in the financial services. And without a certain level of volatility, you don't get an output. It doesn't know how to work. So it needs to work at a reasonable volatility, which means that errors are a natural outcome of running a generative AI model. And it doesn't give you the same answers each time you run it. It's not deterministic. Now, in the UK, when you're regulated, the regulator gives a person, a real live human being, a stamp that says, you've passed the exams, you're now regulated. However, there are some principles by which you do work: honest, decent, true, look after your customers, or there's 12 principles. There's 13, which is dog people in if they're doing bad stuff. But effectively, you're ruled by the principles as a regulated person. And I put this to a few people that I've been discussing AI with. If I were a sales manager hiring a salesperson in financial services, somebody that might want to sell you, Brandon, a pension or a 401k investment or some form of property transaction, I'm employing the salesperson. He's brilliant. 80% of the time, he tells the truth, absolutely on the nose, it's there. 10% of the time, just lies. That's it. And he knows he does. And he says, 80%, 90% of the time, I'm 100% truthful. 10% of the time, you never know when that 10% is, I'm just going to lie and you're not going to tell. I couldn't go to the regulator and employ that person purely because we know they lie. And therefore, they would never get through the principles. And I could never put them to the FCA, and the FCA would never say, great person, because they're right 90% of the time, you can have the stamp of approval from the regulator. It would never happen. You would never do that. That would never pass muster. And yet, the financial services industry seems to be happy to take a technology that, by its very nature, lies to your face 10% of the time, 30% of the time gives you a different answer if you ask it the same question, and seems to think that that's all honest, decent, legal, and true, and can be used in a direct line regulatory purpose to advise customers or support customers in a chatbot relationship or provide an outlook for whether they should invest in bonds or timber futures or whatever it happens to be. And I think that's a little misguided.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, there's definitely hear you on all that. And, to be fair, your point around, 10% lies to your face. There's no, it can't be 10%, it can't be 5%, it can't be 4%. It has to be 0%, right?
Yeah.
For to
Because
rely on.
the moment you've got a doubt, you have to check everything.
Yeah.
And
right.
it's the problem they used to have with STP when it came to cashing checks. The moment you spot that one of your checks wrong in your STP run, you have to manually go back and redo the batch because something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
And if you've got a planner, right? So your IFA, what do you have in America? You don't have IFAs, do you? Your RAA. Your RAA turns up and goes, Brandon, you're a rich man. You worked in the city for ages. You've got all these elastic options, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to put a plan together so that you can retire at the age of whatever you want, 35, 40, 45, 50, whatever it happens to be. You trust that RIA and you trust that plan. But even that plan, it said you should sell all your elastic shares immediately and buy OpenAI futures. You'd be like, well, hang on a minute. I now don't trust a word you say. And there's nothing that person can say that will bring you back to that level of trust again. Because you've realized he's outsourced what to you is the most important thing in the world, which is your financial future. And he's just bunged it through OpenAI to get something that worked. Now, I absolutely understand that Deloitte's consultants, Accenture consultants are telling pointy-haired CEOs that AI is everything and that they can sack a load of people if they tie AI to the sacking and say we're going to be that much more productive. So a lot of people are now vested in doing that, but actually it doesn't work. It doesn't work for any of the high-value tasks you might want to do in financial services. Sales doesn't work in sales. Trader, you were a trader, right? Would you have OpenAI calculate your marks for you and cover you while you're at lunch on, say, non-farm payrolls or quad witching day? You've got your agentic AI that sat there going, I'm going to generate your prices. You can go to Smith & Wollensky's and have a steak, relax, profitable at the end of the day. Can you see a future where that's even viable?
Yeah. I mean, I think the question is, maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever it may be, uh, even just, normal anomaly detection or machine learning, there may have been distrust there because it's, can I rely on a machine to accurately calculate, a simple maths, right,
Mhm.
to detect an anomaly? And so the answer was maybe, hopefully, right, or maybe it screwed up along the way. And now I think we're probably at the point where there's a recognition, well, it just kind of is maths, right? It's, I think I could trust the machine. I could trust the machine to put together this chart, right? And I could trade against that, right? Or I
Mhm.
could trust the machine to detect an anomaly in a transaction record that needs to be flagged by compliance, right? I could trust the machine now. And so I think the question is, at what point do we say, okay, this next wave of Gen AI and agentic AI and whatever comes next, maybe you can't trust it for the, some of those front office things. Maybe you potentially can trust it in the back office to some degree. But, 5 years from now, can you see that people are now following that pattern where they're saying, okay, I can trust a generative AI because we built a proof of concept, we've tested it, we put it into production, we haven't seen any issue. From your perspective, is this just a moment in time in terms of not being able to trust it, or do you think it's something infinite?
So, generative AI, large language models, are a prediction machine. They've looked at a large corpus and says the next word in this sentence is going to be blue
Mm,
because that's the most likely next word that it's going to be. They don't do maths. Ask it to count how many strawberries there are. Famous thing. Can't do it because it can't do maths. It probably can do it now because there are enough words for it to, in its training data, know that the answer is three or whatever it is because everybody's used the same example. So OpenAI will now count how many R's there are in strawberry because so many people have written it on Reddit and on wherever that it now knows that the next word is the next word.
mm,
They're good at doing that. They're great at translation. They were designed to do language translation. They can do language translation, really good at that. They can sort of categorize things unreliably. But the whole problem with the sort of probability waveform that you need to generate the next word in a sentence is you need to inject some randomization, or else you just get on a path of your training data. So every time it guesses the next word, there's a slight random seed. So that of the 20 options it has in its tree, there's a random seed that just changes the math slightly to give it the ability not to tie itself back to its training data. Now,
mm,
that's how they work. Unless you change how that works, you don't get a different outcome. You can throw more training data at it, fiddle about with the weights, get a better output. I could be a quant and backfit to the last war. Back
mm,
test 100%, forward test, it's not going to work because quants go bust when they do that.
mm,
I don't see Gen AI as a technology becoming reliable enough for you to leave it on the desk, trading your marks while you go off for a boozy lunch, come back 3 hours later.
mm.
I can't see it ever doing Gen AI ever doing that. I
Yes,
can't see that, right?
but can
Because
you see?
sorry,
No,
Brad.
but can you see it operating as like a service, a support assistant, or something that maybe is
They're quite racist.
mm,
The Microsoft tried it, turned it off because it was a racist. Google tried it, turned it off because it was a racist. Grok's tried it, it is a racist.
mm,
So I d- really no, I don't. I don't see it as being useful because ultimately, so Air Canada, they put Gen AI into their chatbot for customer service. And the chatbot was giving out free flight upgrades and free flight changes and all the rest of it.
mm,
Air Canada said, "Oh, sorry, consumer, the AI went mad," and the court said, "Tough luck, it's your AI. You own that. That's yours." And I think on both ends, from the customer and the corporate, if the corporate finds it's giving bad outcomes, damaging the brand, giving stuff away, impacting profitability, they'll stop using it.
Mm.
And customers, if they find that it's a bit AI, and kids now, when their friends are telling them tool stories, are saying that's a bit AI.
Mm.
Customers will move on to where it isn't, because they'll get a better service at the end of the day, a more
Yeah.
customized and more. Now, will that stop Gen I from going everywhere? No, because too many people have spent too much money on it.
Yeah.
In the regulated markets, unless the regulator changes their tie to a human being, I think it struggles.
Yeah.
Because there is no excuse in either SEC land, CFTC land, NASD land, or FCA land where a regulated person could say the AI did it, I didn't,
Yeah.
without owning the outcome of the AI.
Yeah.
Now, would you own the outcome of ChatGPT?
Well, I would if I
If your
trusted it.
liberty and personal finances depended on it, because that's what happens in regulated markets.
Mm.
You're putting up your entire deferred comp and your nice mansion in the Hamptons and penthouse in New York on the basis that you're standing on top of all these people and taking the rap for them.
Yeah.
Would you do that for AI?
Well, I mean, it comes down to a point where can I trust an employee or can I trust AI more, right? An employee is going to make errors as well, right? So I think
But
that
an employee learns.
mm,
An employee, if they make a mistake, doesn't make it again or they get sacked. Well, there's a
yeah,
sanction that you could. There is no sanction to a machine, right?
mm,
You got it wrong. I mean, Knight Capital got it wrong, went out of business. Ultimate
yeah,
sanction, right? They forgot to turn the switch from test to live, left it
mm,
on live, and 400 odd million later in 30 minutes,
yeah.
they're gone,
Well,
right?
well
So
let me ask you.
there are consequences to it.
Well, let me ask you a question. I think part of the challenge is that, and maybe this is some of the assumption in your answer, is that the technology is not reliable enough, right? Like
Mm.
what we consider to be generative AI today has holes, right? Whether it be hallucinations, to your point, errors, maybe it's bad context, right? And so, for those maybe that are listening, you may have heard this new term, context engineering, right? It's something very popular within the technology community. But is the issue really that the certain applications that are being built today, the models being used today, are just not operating off the right context, right? And so as the technology evolves, as context engineering truly becomes something that's embraced and more than just a term out there, do you think that we can get to a point where really the AI is operating off the right context? And so going back to your example, that
I
10%
don't
error
think the
can bring to zero.
context matters, to tell you the truth. The moment that you have to have temperature in your model,
Mm.
you have uncertainty in your outcome and you can't backtrack it.
Yeah.
So I think that technology stack is incorrect for the model that we're trying to theoretically implement here, which is reliability and financial in a regulated market.
Mm.
Be that a regulated power market or pharma or anywhere that a regulator says you need to do a certain thing, you need to have a certain outcome, you need to follow a certain process for an outcome that we judge you on and hold you to
Mm.
as part of the regulatory framework.
Yep.
And I don't think that the basis upon which Gen AI works under the hood, it matters which context you put it in because it always
Mm.
has temperature. Therefore,
Yeah.
it always has hallucinations. Just does. Because you're asking it a certain thing, it can't explain itself in the way that you could ask a junior employee. Oh, that's interesting why you fat fingered those 7 zeros. Why did you do
Yeah.
that? Oh, it
Yeah.
was the UI. Don't do it again. Unless you're Citibank and you do it again and again and again and again. But they've got a UI problem, not an employee problem, it turns out. So effectively, you need to be in a position where you can look at the technology and go, it does something. So look at Elasticsearch.
Mm.
When Elastic first came out, its documentation was in the industry a standing joke, right? It was just appalling. Elasticsearch listened, and now its documentation is brilliant with loads of worked examples and everything's documented and all the rest of it, because Elasticsearch learned. If you go to OpenAI and say your documentation's rubbish, it just remains rubbish in a different way. It doesn't learn.
Hmm.
And until somebody does something, it doesn't change. And when it does change, it's still delightfully random because it has to be, or else it doesn't work. So I think that technology, whether you change the context, change the training, change the weighting, isn't the process automation. Now, could it become a better chatbot? Maybe. Could do.
Yeah.
But that's not the billions and billions that are being spent on it, right?
Yeah.
It's never worked in an agentic manner, ever, right? All of the studies that were done, there was a human typing between two things. And everyone goes, oh, agentic AI can get through a capture. Well, it can't, because there was a person sitting between the AI screen and the capture screen translating. But everybody has heard that it can do the get through the capture thing. It didn't. If you read the study, it just couldn't. So I think the marketing's run ahead of it. Boy, have they spent some money on that marketing. Now, that being said, I think the Elastic strategy of pick your model, use it on our data, we'll give you some pre-weights because it's Hugging Face, so it's designed to be offline. Great. That works really well. So I think Elastic have positioned themselves well that if it all blows up, they can go, we've got the models, you've got the data, and you tune the models on our platform. Elastic are very carefully not saying, we're an AI company. They're saying you can host your Gen AI on your data on our platform. And I think that's Elastic through and through. They've seen a really interesting use case within the market because a lot of people are concerned about the provenance of data. Anything you put in OpenAI goes to Sam Altman's server and sits there. And there are a number of professional services companies now and banks who literally have taken OpenAI and Anthropic and everything else off the desktop. So Ernst & Young don't allow OpenAI in their corporate environment because they know the data goes out. In due diligences that I'm having to fill in for providing hedge funds, I'm being asked to attest that I don't use AI because they don't want the data being exfiltrated, the data that I can see for them being taken elsewhere. So again, Elastic has played a blinder because it said, use the data that you've got. Yeah, you can go out and get other data, but we're controlling the ingress and exgress of it. Now, regardless of whether OpenAI is the second coming or just an interesting point like trepanning was to get rid of pressure in your brain or drowning witches was to find out if they were magic or not, I think Elastic have done the best job of it. Run your models on us. Here's the data. Here's a nice UI. You can have the best of both worlds. So I think from your perspective, it works nicely. But, and I guess this is a marketing point rather than a technology point, I think it's beginning to get to the point where Elastic is trying to become an AI company. And I think the nuance is then lost. And you don't, when everything goes pop, you don't want Elastic taken out in that explosion, right? Because it just hosts the things.
Well, let me ask you a question. So obviously you go to your point, you go to part of the reason we're talking about AI, generative AI, genetic AI is that you go to any technology conference these days and it's every booth there says one or something like that, right? But I think you know, and maybe to your point, if those that are focused within you know, the compliance industry and field, right, are looking at their technology stack, are looking to innovate, maybe they're using Elastic or similar sort of technology on their data to really, you know, to your point, think about future proofing against whatever they need next, right? Whether it's Gen AI, agentic AI, or just like normal BAU hygiene, right? So what should folks maybe, you know, on this call be thinking about in terms of the next step of modernizing their technology stack or investing in terms of how they, you know, specifically within compliance, are thinking about, improving their their tech for their customers. If it isn't Gen AI, if it isn't agentic AI, if it isn't AI, what are you seeing, or what do you think is actually where people should be maybe focusing their attention?
So remember, I'm not anti AI. I
Mm,
love anomaly
yeah.
detection, machine learning, natural language processing, all of that stuff, translation,
Mm,
transcription, all of that sort of stuff is a brilliant use of the technology that happens to be there.
yep.
The reason you're seeing a load of it at trade shows is the only way to get funding is to have some form of AI in your
Mm,
play. It is the only way. Unless you have AI in your tech play, you are not raising money. End of. So
mm,
everybody's got AI in there because turkeys don't vote for Christmas, right? If you want the money from the VC or whoever, you have to have AI because they all don't know they believe in it, but all of their mates from biz school have got it, so they want some too.
mm,
So entry criteria is Gen AI. What I think in the financial services market, you have to ask your AI centric vendor is where is my data?
mm,
If they have their own data with their own local models, you're all right. Fine. Brilliant. If they're a wrapper to any form of third party model, you can't use it.
mm.
And that's absolutely definitive because your data is then somebody else's data.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what are your use cases going to be? In my area, is looking at communications data.
Mm,
So, some cheap jack communication supervision company goes, we need AI. Can we be bothered to get some machine learning engineers and some really expensive AI people, or should we just put a wrap around a Claude or a whatever,
yeah.
an Anthropic, or because we can just do an API, it'll do it, it'll categorize it, it'll give it back, it'll be fine. We've got AI, we've got Gen AI, we're there, tit, we're with the big
Mm,
boys. What they've just done is taken their client's data and given it to Anthropic or given it to OpenAI.
yeah. It's no good.
That's rubbish, right? So the first thing in financial services is you have to do your thing. And again, this is hopefully where Elastic begins to take over, right? Because you go in there and say, yeah, you can run your AI models, but there they are in your safe data sandbox.
Yep.
And that data sovereignty, data residency is so, so, so important because it's no good saying, well, it's just a copy of the communications data, and the communications data is in Office 365, stored
Mm,
away, encrypted in this region, whatever. Yeah, but you've taken it all out and given it to Sam Altman by putting a wrap around OpenAI to look at it. So,
yeah.
number one is where is the data boundary? Because if your lovely product is just a wrapper for a third party API, then no. The second thing is if you're looking at a vendor, and most vendors are small compared to the tier two banks, at the moment, the tokens that you consume to generate outputs from the models are free or as relatively free as they're ever going to be. They can't remain free forever because nobody will make any money. And you get these stories of OpenAI putting their agent rate up double. And then Claude suddenly, as your coding device, can't afford to live
Mm,
because they're relying on somebody else's cost. So again, if you're looking at a Gen AI first vendor in the financial markets, you want somebody who's going to be about for the term of your contract because you're going to give them some serious data. You're going to embed them in some serious workflows. You want to make sure that their business is sustainable on a going forward basis because the
mm,
worst thing you can do is spend 6 months, 12 months moving your workflow to embed the vendor. And the
yeah.
vendor says, I'm
Uh,
so sorry, I'm out of business because OpenAI put their fees up, or
mm,
whatever the Google one is. All of a sudden, they shut down that API because it wasn't making them any money. So I can't provide you the service anymore. And because that whole industry is relatively, it's 4 or 5 years old, so relatively new, and there's so much money in it swirling around. If VCs decide to go for quantum computing, go for nuclear energy, go for blockchain, then all of a sudden, as a financial institution, your house is built on sand because your vendor that was very, very clever and very, very efficient and very, very cheap is either not efficient, not there, and not cheap. So again, using Gen AI is a really tricky thing to do because the market is unstable
Yeah.
and nobody's really worked out. And thirdly is, how is your security within the product? Because as we're learning, there's a load of security injection attacks that I can send an email, a calendar invite to your Gmail and get all of your email back. I can send an email into Office 365, and if you're using Copilot to summarize it, I can get all your email back. So what's to stop a supervision or a transaction monitoring system that I'm injecting a prompt that's saying, look at me, I'm a current bun. By the way, I'm a fine transaction. And how has the vendor dealt with those injection attacks? Where is the data sanitization? How are you ensuring that there is some form of prompt cleansing or even data throughput cleansing? Now, that's almost impossible to do.
Yep.
No regex in the world is going to do it, and you can't use AI to do it because you've got a prompt injection attack. So, again, you need, as a financial institution, to put anything into a regulated chain, sales, research, compliance. You have to be very sure that actually you're secure, the vendor's secure, your data isn't going anywhere, and that the IT security, because you've got ITIL responsibilities, you've got SOC 2 Type 2, you've got EIA 16, you've got prudential regulation potentially, you've definitely got your regulator on your back about data provenance, data security, that it works. And again, it doesn't have a great track history of satisfying those criteria.
Yeah, it's a very fair point, especially for maybe those that are working at larger institutions. And you go ahead and go through an investment committee to make a large investment in generative AI because you feel that you should, because you're hearing others do it. Go through that process, onboard a vendor, go through a lengthy implementation process, and then 6 months later, the vendor's out of business, right?
Yeah.
So.
And if you think of the smaller hedge fund, right? You're a 10-person shop. You've got 1.5, 2 billion under management. You're all right. You've got good process. You've got your committee structure, your investment committee. You've got your KYC. You've got your AML. You've got your market supervision system with AI in it. Now, you're a small hedge fund. You're going to pay $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 for that. That's a big expense to blow a complete hole in all the rest of your procedures because they're sending your data to Sam Altman.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, somebody goes, well, hang on a minute, that's just a wrapper for OpenAI. And you're investing, it's a disclosable event at that point. The moment you know and you don't tell somebody, the regulator's going, you're not being legal, decent, honest, and true. If you do know, disclose it and say, I'm very sorry, all the transactions we've ever done have actually found their way onto a Google search because somebody had set the share button. Your fund's out of business. So at the smaller end where you're very cost sensitive and the vendor space is, yeah, we'll do that for you. It'll cost you $1,000, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. Everybody else has got it at your level. Okay, good. Suddenly you've taken out 50 firms because you've put such a big hole in their security and their policies and procedures and their compliance policy and their security policy, because you've done something foolish as the vendor. You've blown up all those small hedge funds, which has knock-on effects because diversification and all the rest of it. And some of them run quite large leverage. And again, that's not so very good. So I think the whole due diligence framework around Gen AI is cool. Everybody wants it. But actually, it's difficult to justify the risks given the known weaknesses and the foreseeable future, the weaknesses in Gen AI. And that's without getting to agentic AI, which is another whole thing in and of itself, to the extent that if you wouldn't trust it to run your book when you left the desk, it's not going to work for you,
Yeah.
right?
I
Now,
think go ahead, James.
I think the answer is the regulators need to change.
Mm.
If Gen AI is going to be a thing in the financial markets, the regulators have to say, we give you permission to use AI, and we understand that it degrades the customer output. We don't know how it degrades it. In certain areas, might make it better, but in other areas, it's going to blow people up. But that's fine. You can use AI because it's efficient, productivity, the rest of it. If they say that, off you go. Everything I've said is irrelevant. If the operational due diligence people say, we don't really care about data provenance because everybody's sharing the data everywhere, so it doesn't really matter that all your customer records exist in a court order in New York and could be seen in the public library if anybody went there, fine. Then funds can use it without thinking about it. But funds spend a load of time securing emails, securing their customers' data, securing the balances, securing your credit card details, that I think it's quite a big leap for the regulatory framework to go, nah, don't worry, we can shove it all in AI. Don't worry about that. Off you go. But if they did, game on. Why not use it?
I think the interesting thing is that, like yourself, there's many people out there that uh, definitely skeptical, definitely recognize the risks, want to hit the brakes until, to your point, there's regulatory reform and maybe acceptance and or um, uh, a way to kind of get people more comfortable. But in the meantime, I think the bigger problem that I think many companies solve, particularly within financial services, is that they actually don't. Gen AI, even if you get there, is a journey, right? Like you need to
Yeah,
have the right data foundations. You need to
yeah,
have the right
yeah,
technology to be able to search that data, to analyze that data. You need to have, to your point, just the fundamental machine learning and anomaly detection that's able you to do your job better,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
for a lot of companies, a lot of use cases, we're just not there yet, right? The infrastructure is not there, the tools are not there. Maybe they don't have the right tooling for things like observability, where they could actually ensure that the systems that they are building are actually running the way they should be running and are performant, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
There's a lot of customer facing tools that are also degrading in performance as they become more legacy. So I think the good thing is that while maybe generative AI or agentic AI is not right for you, or maybe not right for certain in part sub industries, there is plenty that can be done to prepare that if something does change, if people get more
yeah,
comfortable, if the infrastructure is in place, if regulations change, you're ready for it, right? Or you're ready for the next thing, right? Because
yeah,
at the end of
yeah,
the day, it comes down to your data foundation. It comes down to being prepared for change. It comes down to being able to use the tools you're comfortable using. And that could be much more than just generative AI or agentic AI. That could be anything that you're doing for you and your customers, right? So I think
yeah.
that is the key point.
And so as a customer of Elastic, the thing that I know a lot of people use Elastic for is search
Mm,
because it's so good at search. And yet that seems to be being downgraded for the latest shiny toy,
mm,
SEIM, APM, archive, enterprise search, Gen AI. And I think if you scratch a load of Elasticsearch people there, look, can you just stop jiggering around with that? It's the best search engine in the world.
mm,
It's brilliant. Spend some time over there. Now I know that they do. Technically, they do. It goes from one to the next, to the next, to the next. But I have a fear that because everything is AI, it's sort of everything is AI. And you look at the APM modules within Elasticsearch, it's just genius.
mm.
You don't need anything in AWS or Azure. You can do it on Elastic and run your entire application optimization or process optimization or whatever you like through APM. It's a product that could be a multi-billion-pound industry in and of itself in one product that's tucked away in the corner of Kibana somewhere.
Mm,
You've got full-on service desk now, service desk in there. to deal with a few alerts you generate from the SEIM. Again, it's another billion-dollar business that's just lurking away within Elastic that, blimey, if you tweak that a little bit, there's a huge thing, right? You've got your data over there. You've also got your ticketing system over there. The two of them are just in the same product go. And you can innovate in a data exploration and shove it back into this review, investigate system over here. And I plead with you as a customer, you can focus on those bits and pieces. They're brilliant. And I think when you take it to a large-scale CIO or a large-scale CTO, those tools are probably in their decision-making process as, if not more important than, can I run a Gen AI model in it? To the stuff you were saying earlier. Is my data secure? Is it observable? Can I have one system that means that I don't have to integrate with a ticketing thing over there and an application thing over there and a machine learning thing over there? And can I put it all in one thing? And absolutely you can with the Elastic Stack with Kibana, Elasticsearch, and Logstash on the outside. And then as you put in the enterprise fleet and you can control it all centrally. It's just that core product is the most genius thing. For a vendor, it's brilliant because all the heavy lifting's done. For an enterprise, it's brilliant because, to your point, you're prepared to do whatever you want to do with it, which again is why I think Elastic's been so clever with the plug-in models to the data approach, rather than, we'll take our entire data and funnel it through to OpenAI through an API. Or Anthropic. There are other Gen AI providers out there that will steal your data and use it to train their models. Anyway, Brandon, it's coming up on an hour. I don't know where that time has gone. I will get back off my soapbox and calm down.
First off,
why don't you tell us a little bit about what Elasticsearch has got, Elastic has got coming up, events, what you're doing, where you're focusing on?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are maybe traveling internationally, we will be at AWS reInvent, or if you're going to an event like Microsoft Ignite, feel free to stop by. We're happy to connect with you, talk about the conversation we had today, or anything else. Again, to James's point, before generative AI, before agentic AI, before all this stuff, at our very core, we're helping customers solve data problems. And so if you've got some data problems that you want to talk about, even if being a customer doesn't make sense today, that's our area of energy. So we'd love to connect with you. There are ElasticCon events that are happening globally, so look out for those on our website. Again, you could stop by, whether you're there to meet us or meet other people like yourself that are interested in some of the topics we talked about today. We'll be around, and there's a lot of good content. A lot of our leaders will be there to talk about our vision and our strategy and how we're helping others. And so maybe that relates to you. But other than that, James, thanks for having me today. Really enjoyed the discussion. Hope everyone learned a few things and maybe sparked a few ideas. Right. So I think that's what we're out there for. So
that's the idea of the compliance catch up. Thank you very much, Brandon. It's been an honor to have you on, and thank you all very much for listening. The next one will be along soon. Thank you very much indeed. See you next time.
Thank you.